Have you ever dreamed of practicing Aikido in Japan? Or maybe you've even had the chance already. If you're watching this video at the time that it was published, I'm now in Japan. After the positive response to our last two videos, we're continuing our journey through the topic of training Aikido in Japan. Whether you're already in the planning stage for your trip to Japan or you're still dreaming about a training trip to Japan, I've got more tips for you to make your Aikido experience in Japan truly memorable. For those of you who don't know me, I lived in Japan for almost a decade, back in the late 80s and early 90s, and I make it a point to travel to Japan every year if at all possible. Now, after years of learning the do's and don'ts the hard way, I'm here to share some insights in this new video series. I hope today's video brings you not just tips, but insight, inspiration, and the motivation to elevate your Aikido through your Aikido practice, wherever you practice. And if you're gearing up for your own Aikido adventure in Japan, consider this video your essential guide. Let's check it out. So I'll be honest with you, I ran some ideas through ChatGPT, through AI, and it did spit up some notes for me. But I'm going to integrate some of my own personal insights and experiences to sort of help those hit home. So the three tips that I have for you today are exploring the history of martial arts or Aikido and Japanese culture, and participating when at all possible in traditional ceremonies. And the third one, connecting with the Sensei. So first, the first point, history exploration. AI tells us, begin your exploration by visiting historical Aikido sites, from Hombu Dojo in Tokyo to other significant dojos and shrines. These places are like living archives of Aikido's evolution. Take the time to absorb the energy and history that surrounds these sacred spaces. So, I remember my second training night in Japan. It was in a tiny dojo. I don't know how old the building was. It was really old. The wood was unfinished, but it was shiny from the students wiping down the walls after every single class. And it was just a tiny standalone building. It doesn't exist anymore. They bulldozed it and made a parking lot. So sad, but it was 27 tatami, Japanese-sized tatami, and there were usually about 35 or so young black belts training in there, like guys like 35 years old, 40 years old. It was amazing. There was one other white belt there, and me when I was a white belt. So, really fond memories. But I do remember a couple of things about it. First of all, I had only been in Japan less than a week, and I walked in there and I was just like blown away by the serenity of it. It was before class. When class started, I was like, oh my gosh. But just walking in, it was just so serene. And up at the front, there was one of the small shrine, and you could just tell that the wood was so old and that a lot of training hours had taken place there. So that was just truly amazing. And then, when would that have been? Probably 3 or 4 nights later. So I was training, I think, every night the first few weeks that I was there. Anyway, so a few nights later, one of the dojo that we went to was on the grounds of Hachiman Shrine, Tsurugaoka Hachimangu. So it's in Kamakura. And the grounds of the shrine, when I was living there in the early 90s, they celebrated the 800th year anniversary of the shrine. So it's awfully old. And again, just the serenity. You step off of the street sidewalk and into the shrine grounds, and just walking through there is like a meditation. So maybe a lot of Japanese anyway, probably sort of take it for granted. But when I walked into those grounds, it was like, I couldn't talk. Um, it just felt very powerful. So then I went into the building that night. One of the buildings houses our dojo, and well, it's a dojo that we are able to use a couple times a week. And I was taken by the group effort, everybody getting there early to put the mats out, like so many mats that needed to be put out, and then we wiped them down together. Takes like it probably took like 2 to 5 minutes because 30 people are doing it together. And so that was just really amazing. But the fact that these were such historical structures and environments was very powerful and did impact my my training mentality. So I would really recommend that you do that. Also, hey, we'll get back to the video in just a moment, but I just wanted to give you a gift for joining me today. I want to give you a free resource, my body alignment checklist called The 3 Lines of Equilibrium in Budo. It's a simple PDF guide. The checklist will help you begin to identify and eliminate any ineffective or harmful patterns of movement so that you can preserve your body and improve your technique and continue training for years to come. You can download it at leah-suzuki.com/body alignment checklist with hyphens, or just click on the link in the description below. I hope you enjoy the gift, and I hope you take action on it. Now let's get back to the video. ChatGPT tells us about traditional ceremonies. Participate in traditional ceremonies. When I take my students to Japan in May, I think it's before the very first class, or maybe it's before the final class with Dojo Cho, a Shinto priest always comes out and blesses us. And this was just extraordinary for me. I was like, wow. Of course, I couldn't understand what they were saying. When I first went to Japan, I didn't speak any Japanese at all, except onegai shimasu and arigatou gozaimashita. So I didn't know what they were saying. And sorry, I just noticed my lighting suddenly changed. Hopefully you're patient with me. But anyway, so that'll happen again. And I think it'll be so interesting for my students to experience that, a Shinto blessing before we actually start the training. And again, I think that this puts us in a certain frame of mind, which is very conducive to our learning during the Aikido class. Also, ChatGPT talks about other ceremonies like a belt promotion, demonstrations, things like that, to give us insight into the soul of Aikido and its rituals. This might be, where's the best lighting here? I'm sorry. The last point of the 3 is connecting with the sensei. So I haven't, I've trained with a lot of different Japanese sensei, and so I can speak for many of them. Of course, I can't speak for all of them, but every teacher that I've trained with in Japan and most other places don't want to have a personal connection or conversation during class. I myself find it kind of distracting. When somebody goes like, "Oh, hey, sensei, what do you think about this technique?" And it brings me into a different frame of mind. So I like to kind of be in my own world while I'm teaching. No, I'm not in my own world. That's not the right way to put it. I like to watch people, assess people, and let that inform my next topic in my class. Let that inform whether I'm going to break the lesson plan that I had, if I did have one in the first place. But connecting with the sensei after class, outside of class. When I lived in Japan, we mostly had evening classes, and sometimes we would go out after an evening class. But Sundays, we had class, I think at 11:30, if memory serves. So we were finished. The class ended at about 1 or a little after 1. And then oftentimes we would do atogeko. We would get thrown more after the class. And I would always build time into my schedule just in case Sensei felt like going out for a coffee or lunch after class. So, and again, this is like before cell phones, before the internet. So if a friend wanted to like go to the movies or something on a Sunday afternoon, I would never ever agree to meet a friend anytime before like 5 p.m., even though class finished officially at 1 o'clock. So I knew that like, well, we'll probably train after we bow out. Sometimes that could go on for another 30, 60 minutes. And then I knew that like, oh, it's always nice to go out for a bite to eat if anybody's interested in that. And oftentimes, actually more often than not, Sensei would go out with us. And sometimes it was only a small group, like 4 or 5 people, other times 10 people. But I always did that because I always, at the very least, I enjoyed my time at the coffee shop with Sensei. Sometimes I would get some inspiration from something that he said that I not only enjoyed my time at the coffee shop, but I got like a new insight, a new inspiration, a new thought. And I left the conversation more motivated than before the conversation. So make yourself available to those opportunities as well when you go to Japan. AI tells us, lastly, make an effort to connect with local sensei and practitioners. They are the living embodiments of Aikido's legacy. Engage in conversations, listen to their stories, and absorb the wisdom they share. What I loved doing in Japan, I'm pretty talkative actually, but what I really liked doing was sitting next to a senpai or my sensei and trying to shut up at first, at least at first, and just listen, because oftentimes they would take the conversation in a direction that I wouldn't have thought of, and they had something very interesting to say. Sometimes I would want to ask a question, and then the thing to remember, now this is after you've trained and you maybe had a beer, so that's when I'm especially talkative. So the thing I had to remind myself of was when I asked the question, shut up and listen, and then shut up some more and listen, because I already know what I know. So if I say stuff that I already know, okay, but I can get new information if I shut up and listen. So anyway, some nights I did better than others, but I got so much wisdom by sitting next to somebody that I wanted to gain some knowledge from. And let's see what else we've got here. Building these connections creates a bridge between the past and the present, fostering a deeper appreciation for the art. I couldn't have said it any better than AI. Okay, so we're losing the light. I'm looking like it's looking like a horror movie here with this weird lighting. So I'm going to wrap it up. I hope it was helpful and interesting. Remember the 3 points that we went over. Explore historical sites, participate in ceremonies, and connect with the living legends of Aikido. Living legends that can even just mean like, whose Aikido do you see and go like, wow, he's really good, she's really good. Connect with that person then. If you've been to Japan or you have your own tips, share them please in the comments section below. If you've got more questions that about tips about training in Japan, something that I didn't cover that is your burning question, please leave that in the comments section. And also let me know what seminars you plan on attending in the upcoming months. You can check out my 2024 seminar schedule at leah-suzuki.com/seminars. Of course, please feel free to leave any kind of comments and questions you like, and I'll do my best to get back to them. Again, I want to give you a gift, my free checklist called The 3 Lines of Equilibrium in Budo. It's from my paid online course called Proper Body Alignment in Movement, but it's free for you today as a thank you for watching this video. Just click on the link below or type in leah-suzuki.com/checklist. It will help you to avoid harmful patterns of movement. It'll make your technique more effective, and it'll help you continue doing Aikido for years to come. Again, leah-suzuki.com/body alignment checklist. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.